everyone. Today we are talking paper patterns. I know that they are quite intimidating to a lot of people, and a lot of people have suggested to me that they want to make clothes, but they just don't understand the paper pattern. So I thought I'd do a bit of a video on my understanding of them and how I use them. So the first thing you want to note is the sizes that they come in. So this one does a US 4 to 16, whereas the McCall's ones, you can usually get two sizes. So you'll get small to, this one's extra small to medium, and so then the other size will be large to double extra large, or whatever sizes they go up to. So when you're buying your patterns, always make sure that the size that you are is the size that's here. Now, if you don't even know what size you are, that's okay. Usually on here, on this flap, it tells you your measurements. So that'll be in different spots on different patterns. So on the New Look one, it's here. So it's got a list of waist and hip measurements for you so that you can figure out which one you are. I'm really, really lucky. I'm a size 10 in clothes and I'm a size 10 in patterns. I don't have to do any alterations. My body's pretty just stock standard to a pattern. So in that way, I'm quite lucky. So that's the first thing, because when I worked at Spotlight, a lot of people would accidentally buy the wrong size. And a lot of places won't let you exchange them because technically you could have pulled it out, traced it, and taken it back. So please be very, very conscious that you get the size that is you, or the size that you think is you, because you may not just stand in the middle of a shop and measure yourself. I would also maybe suggest measure yourself before you go. Anyway, moving on. So then on the back, usually you've got like English and French, or English and Spanish, or they've usually got English, which is in yards, which is like the American version. And then over here where you can't understand it is meters. So it's really quite simple. I work in meters because I'm in Australia. So to work out how much fabric I need, I look at the side that I technically don't understand, because A and A are the same dress, or in this case, it's a jacket, which we will be doing. So A on here, if your fabric is 45 inches wide, my size would need 2 3/8. Now, I can't do 3/8 in my brain. So I just jump over to this is French. And so I need 2.2 meters of fabric. So it's quite easy to just follow along because they're usually all like in line. So if you don't understand a word on that side, you can just read what it is on this side and then find the amount of fabric you need on the other side. Secondly, I would always pre-wash your fabric before making any of these because your fabric might shrink, and so I'd hate for you to put in all this effort to make a beautiful dress that fits you and then you wash it and the fabric shrinks and it doesn't fit you anymore. Or worse, all the fabric distorts so that the jacket or dress or whatever won't sit nicely. So that's just like a side note. Now, I don't cut my paper patterns. I did once when I first started. I cut that's terrible English. I cut out my size, I lost the piece, so I had to buy a whole new pattern. And unless you get patterns on sale, they aren't cheap. So I leave mine intact and I try and fold them up the same way that I unfold them. If you pay close attention, you can fold them up the same way. So instead, I use something called trace and toil. So this is like, it's like a fabric, but it's not. So you can't tear it. It's not easily tearable. So it cuts nicely. It keeps its shape. But it's also see-through. Now, I know you can't necessarily tell, but if I put that up against that, you can see all the measurements and markings through the fabric. So what I would do is I would lay one of these out, and we are going to do this in a minute, but I lay it out and I get my roll of trace and toil. So you can buy it by the roll or by the meter from Spotlight. I don't know about the US. I assume it's the same. And then I will trace out all the pieces I need and I mark on here all the relevant information. So for me, because I own such an excessive amount of patterns, I will put the brand name, the pattern number, the size that I've cut, the piece number, and then how many to cut of that piece. So this one says New Look 6013, piece 13, which is the sleeve front, size 10, cut 2. And then this line, you will always see on patterns, they have this like vertical straight line with arrows. This is to indicate where the grain of your fabric will sit. So you don't have to worry about that as much with bags, because you tend to just know which way's up. But the grain line, so that line that I've drawn there, needs to be perfectly in line with this edging. That's what it's designed to do, so that any stretch that you've got in your fabric will go the same way. Your pattern will be the right way up when you're wearing it. If you oh my God, I can't speak today. If you did it on like a 45 degree like this, you're more likely to get a stretch and it'll sit differently because it's on, that would be called cut on the bias. So you always want to make sure that you mark the lines, the vertical lines on the pattern piece, so that you can line it up with the edge of your fabric. So that's one really important thing. Now, this is all a size 10. I cut all mine, but sometimes I do make my friends some clothes. So if that's the case, the way I store them is I got these, I don't know, I got like press stud plastic sleeves. I get them from Officeworks. They're like a cheap Kenji brand. You get 5 for $4 or something like that, 6 for $5, whatever. And I just buy them as I need them. So I will actually put, so the way I store it in my cupboard, and we'll look at that too, this is going to be a long video. So I will put all the pattern pieces and instructions in there, and then that will sit at the front so that when I'm flicking through my drawer, I can see what pattern it is, not just the number at the top, but like what I'm looking at to make. And then usually I have these in a Ziploc bag. So I have these giant Ziploc bags, and on the Ziploc bag, I will write the brand, the pattern number, and the size that's in the bag. So if I wanted to make this jacket in a size 14 for a friend, I would have 2 of these tucked behind the pattern that lives in here. But because this one's only got my size, I will just chuck the pattern pieces behind the pattern so that I can still see what's going on. If I need to know what, like how much fabric or anything, I can pull it out. But as a general rule, I know roughly most dresses take 2.5 meters, circus skirt dresses take 3.5, jackets take between 2.5. So my brain knows that from the repeated use of patterns. Okay, so I think I might change the angle of the camera so that I can discuss all the markings on patterns, which is the bit that freaks people out. So let's do that. So here I have one of the pieces of the pattern laid out. So the first thing you'll note is it's got these dotted lines right in the middle. This actually tells you what it is. It's a dart. So when I was to transfer this to the pattern, I would mark, this is a size 8 and a size 12 on this piece, but I would mark the dots for that size. And then you could rule the lines so you know, or you could even write there dart. You'll also notice that it's got a double line across here. That is to indicate your waistline. So if from here to there, oh no, you can't see. So if from the waistline to the top front, what you can do is you can get a measuring tape and you can measure there to there. And if that's going to be too long or too short, here is where you adjust it. So you would bring it in or extend it out. That's how to alter a pattern. But that's what this indicates. This double line is your waistline, which is usually like at your belly button. Okay, so this particular piece, you'll see it's got 2 lines. One line says it's a size 8. I don't know if this is going to work, but I'll lift it up. So it says 8 and 12. So that is a size 8 if you follow those lines. And those lines are a size 12. And then over there, size 6 and 14. And then there'll be 10 somewhere else. So all you need to do, they always have a different shaped line for each size. So for example, on this piece here, the biggest size is always the solid line, And then the other sizes here have different, so this one's like line, dash, dash. This one's just long dashes. This one's dash, dot, dash, dot. Shorter lines, dots, and then long line, single dash. So they do a different code for each size. So when you are tracing around the pattern, those same lines will be the same for your size. No matter where you go, the pattern will be the same for the line. So all you need to do is follow that line. Now you can definitely cut out your patterns if you want to, but you just need to remember if you gain weight or lose weight, you're stuck with the same size unless you grade patterns. And I personally don't grade patterns. It's out of my comfort zone. It's too hard, in my opinion. So I don't do that. All right, let's talk more markings. So up here, we have these little triangles. So all the sizes have triangles. What those triangles do, I tend to not transfer them anymore. I did used to when I started. So those triangles will match up with the corresponding piece. So this is the front of the dress. So that other piece before I was showing you that I pulled out of my thing was an arm sleeve. So you'll find that on the other piece, there will be a corresponding triangle, and those 2 points are meant to match up. So it's to help you properly make everything match up. So you'll find another one here. I know this is not the best angle, so I do apologize, but my camera doesn't tilt anymore. So I've got a single one here. So this is the front piece. So the back piece is going to have another one that's that far above the waist. And so you're meant to match up those triangles. Along here, along a straight edge, you will quite often find this arrow that joins to another arrow down the other end. This is to indicate, and it does say it, but this is to indicate put your fabric on the fold. So you fold your fabric in half, and then the folded edge will go against this straight edge here. So it's instead of, we do it in bag patterns as well, you put it on the fold. So it's just instead of having to trace both pieces, you can just trace one because they need to be symmetrical. In paper patterns, I won't mirror image that and draw it as one big thing. I will just draw it as that and put it on the fold because I find it easier. But with bags, because I want to center designs, I will actually mirror it and have it double so it's one whole piece. But for clothing, I don't bother. I know that's a weird thing, but it's just not something I like to do. I'm just trying to see if there's any more. Oh, so there's these little circles as well. So these little circles, so that's a front of a jacket. So those circles usually correspond with where to start or stop sewing quite often, especially these ones down here. So these will tell you where you're meant to start and stop sewing. Or it's to indicate where a button goes, or I don't know. They have a few different uses. So like this one here says it's for the welt line. So this is where I would be putting a welt pocket because it's the welt line. So different sizes. So this particular piece that we're looking at has size 4, 8, 12, and 16. So the middle sizes will be on a different piece. So size 16, which will be the outside edge, your welt line is there. Actually, I think that particular welt line being the size that it is for a buttonhole. But you get the idea. So these circle dots I will always transfer because they're usually useful. If you're new to pattern making and clothing, you may want to transfer these triangles so that you can match it up. It might just help. But yeah, don't be overwhelmed by all the lines. The lines are just the different sizes. But if you, now that I've hopefully explained it well, you'll know to just follow the same patterned line for the whole pattern. And usually this brand will do the same lines for all sizes. So you'll just get used to what your line looks like, and then you just know to trace out that particular size. Here's another one of, sorry about the noise, tissue paper. What are you going to do? Hello, Knuckles. So this is that grain line that I was talking about. Quite often they'll write grain line next to it. So I need to, because this is like a curved piece, I need to make sure that this is in line with the edge of the fabric so that the stretch is going to go the right way. And then here's all the information. So cut 2. It just looks like a lot because they do it in like 5 different languages. But the biggest one's usually English. So it just says cut 2. This is a side back piece for pattern pieces A, B, and C. Because sometimes you'll get more than one dress or coat or whatever in a pattern. Yes, Knuckles. All right, I think that's it. We'll go over to the drawers and I'll show you how I keep them stored. This is my op shop or opportunity shop, thrift store, whatever you call it. I got this secondhand for $30, I think, because the key was lost, so it didn't work. And then I've covered it in contact because I was sick of looking at grey. So each of these drawers, I have organized my patterns, and I know this sounds OCD, but there is a reason for it. So I've got brand, so they go in brand and then in number order. And the reason that I'm a little bit OCD about this is because before I did it this way, I found patterns I liked, thought I hadn't bought them, and bought a second one, which is just a waste of a lot of money. So in here, I'm going to have to lift you up so you can see, but in here, I have got, so this is all, Simplicity is the ones I've got the most of. So Simplicity actually takes up 1.5 drawers. So these are all Simplicity patterns. So that, as you can see, they're all in these little plastic slips. And yes, if I was to go out and just buy these all in bulk, it would be a lot. But I've accumulated them over many years, so it's not so bad. So then they've got the patterns. So the pattern numbers will always be in order. And then, so this one, I've made this one. I made C. I actually know which one I made from that. So in the back of this, you can see that I've got the pattern pieces. So that's how I keep them. So I've got Simplicity in this top drawer. And then Simplicity continues into this drawer and then rolls into McCall's. Then I think the next one is Butterick and New Look. And the bottom one is like weird ones that are discontinued. I don't know, you can't really see. Down there, it's a 4 drawer. So the bottom one has things called Style. So Style's like an old brand of pattern. So I got those ones from the op shop or thrift store. They're like proper old school 80s. And I was doing this where I stuck the brand and the number of the pattern, but my printer stopped working, so I eventually stopped doing it. But yeah, so these are all in order. I'm just going to put it back in order so that I can find things easier, because I have a lot, as you can see. These are all full. Some of these are so chockers, like it's hard to look in them, but I love them, and I'm going to try and make a lot more of them this year. So you are going to see a lot more clothing patterns. I will even do one of the videos where I show you how I trace out a pattern. I might do that as a live so you can chat to me, because it's not terribly exciting to watch. But I might do things that I don't know about, and so I can't tell you if I don't know that I'm consciously doing them. But yeah, please don't be scared to try clothes. Join me. I'm going to be making heaps. I'm going to be doing stretchy fabrics or knits, as well as a lot of cotton, sateen, because it's got that little bit of stretch. I do love a cotton sateen because it can fit you well, and then if you eat, your dress doesn't hurt you. So I do a lot of sateen. And I will be doing a Halloween costume this year because I don't have anything to wear. All right, well, I'm going to go because I now need to drive to Spotlight and Big W and things. But I hope this was helpful, and I hope this kind of took your fear away from pattern, or paper patterns specifically. All right, bye guys.